Dan Cohen is the founder of Uncaptured Media, an investigative journalism outlet aimed to debunk propaganda and disinformation during wartime. He joins us now from Washington. Really good to have you with us, Dan. No doubt there's been a lot of misinformation about with regards to this latest conflict. Describe to us how much of a problem is disinformation, so-called fake news, when it comes to a time of war?
Well, Israel has a very powerful disinformation apparatus that Benjamin Netanyahu is directly in control of, and the Western media willingly collaborates with in order to disseminate lies. And these lies are seek to justify the siege of Gaza that has gone on for so long and the current ethnic cleansing that's happening. We saw a series of lies about the Hamas attack, which was as horrible as it is not what the Israelis said, that there was mass rape, and that, of course, 40 Israeli babies were beheaded. That was an absolute lie. It was obvious from the start, yet the Western media went all along with it. And now the latest one is that Islamic Jihad launched a rocket that destroyed this hospital in Gaza, which killed hundreds of people. Yet the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's own social media operative, Hanania Naftali, an Israeli fanatic who wants to see an apocalyptic end to the world, he actually tweeted immediately after the bombing that Israel did it. He boasted that the Israeli Air Force bombed the Al Ahli hospital in Gaza before deleting it and then claiming that Palestinians themselves did it, which is completely absurd. So all of these lies are to either justify Israel's murderous ethnic cleansing, these genocidal attacks on Gaza, and also to stimulate bloodlust among the Israeli public as well as the Western public, to the point where, for example, there's a Telegram channel with 87,000 followers in Israel, in Hebrew, where it is purely pictures of dead and mutilated Palestinians with jokes about how nice it is to see that. So this is the genocidal bloodlust raging, pulsing through Israeli society, and that we see in the West too, spurred on, cheered on by figures like Ron DeSantis, the presidential hopeful, who said that all Gazans are anti-Semitic. And then 1 or 2 days later, we saw a 6-year-old Palestinian boy stabbed to death in Chicago. So this is the climate, and this is the result of this kind of disinformation.
So Dan, you mentioned some very key and disturbing examples of disinformation being disseminated by Israeli officials. So do Israeli governments, past and present, there is an established history of officials disseminating this type of information, is there?
Of course, this is an age-old Zionist tradition. It's called Hasbara, which is Hebrew for explaining. And so, I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Every time. I mean, the latest propaganda offensive is this claim that Hamas is ISIS, when we, of course, know that Israel supported ISIS in Syria, for example, in order to overthrow the Syrian government. We know. So, I mean. If Hamas was ISIS, Israel would be supporting it. So it's just a constant stream of lies. It's been that way for decades. And the bigger the crime, the bigger the lie from Israel. And now everyone is seeing through it. Does anyone who's not watching CNN or reading the New York Times actually believe that Palestinians bombed their own hospital and killed 800 people? Of course not. Palestinians don't believe that. Palestinians in Gaza don't believe that. It's just another lie to justify genocide, and it's the same thing Israel has always done, but now it's falling apart. It's severely these attacks cannot be covered up by the lies, no matter how much they push them, no matter how much talking heads on CNN like Wolf Blitzer, Jake Tapper, Rachel Maddow, the columnists in the New York Times and the Washington Post pretend. The reality is that Israel's carrying out a genocide in Palestine, and they can lie all they want, but the world knows.
Okay, Dan Cohen from Uncaptured Media. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.